So if I ask the question, where are you going? It has to do with the exploration of your long-term goals and also the direction of your life. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to today's episode of Success and Significance Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Newman, and as always, I do not take it lightly that you have selected to be here to make yourself successful, to pour out significance. Hey, listen, the last couple of episodes, we've been in a 3-part series to talking about 3 practical questions that if you can just answer these 3 questions time and time again, if you can learn these 3 questions, that it will make you more successful in life to be able to pour out significance. So the first episode that we recorded with this was Who Am I? And that has to do with your identity. The second episode that we recorded was What Do I Believe? Which happens to have to where your beliefs dictate your future. And so if you haven't listened to those 2 episodes, I would highly encourage you to press pause right now, go back, listen to those 2, so that you can get caught up to speed, and then you can listen to this one, Where Am I Going? So the 3 questions, who am I, what do I believe, and today what we'll be discussing is where am I going? So the last episode, what do I believe, that's a heavy one. You got to really dig into the past. But for me, I've been called an entrepreneur. I've been called a visionary my entire life. And so what that means is I see things as they are, but I have clearer vision of what they could be. Meaning, like, yes, it took me a long time to say, like, oh, I'm a visionary. Like, it made me sound weird. It made me feel uncomfortable. But now I finally appreciate it. And what that means is the vision side of it is for each and every one of our lives, if you're listening to this, you're heading in a direction. Either you're driving the car or you're in the passenger seat. And so for me, where am I going is the future, and we get to get excited about that. And so if you have no idea where you're going, that's fine. This is a starting point. But imagine if you're driving, you're going to drive to Florida, and you don't have a GPS, and you have no coordinates, and you have zero idea where you're going. Do you think that you'll be able to get there? Probably with today's technology, yes. But the fact of the matter is you'll get there faster and probably happier if you have the GPS coordinates. Are you going to hit some traffic? Absolutely. Are you going to have to stop, refuel, get some snacks, and head along your way? Yes. But if we can crack this code in this question of where am I going, then I promise you it will make the journey a lot easier. And so this one, really to break it down, if I ask the question, where are you going? It has to do with the exploration of your long-term goals and also the direction of your life. And so this question, what it does, it prompts us to be able to dream. It talks about our ambition. It will provide us a step-by-step to turn our dreams into reality. And so I'm a dreamer, and I believe that dreams are the things that change the future, and I believe that your dreams should always outweigh your resources, meaning your dreams should be so big, you don't know who the heck the people are going to do to help you with the dream. You don't know how you're going to pay for the dream, and you have no idea how to get there, but you have that GPS coordinates that will help you get to where you're going. For me right now, as you're listening, if you can stop and just envision where you're going, where are you going to be in the next year? Where are you going to be in the next 5 years? Where are you going to be in the next 10 years? And trust me, out of anybody, I know how fast life can change, but I do believe that if you just have a where am I going statement, that this will help you get there faster, because action without aim is exhausting. And so how I refer this to is my son has a Nerf gun, and he runs around the room and he's shooting all these Nerf bullets, and then he lays down on the floor. He sweats more than any human that I've ever seen in my entire life, lays down on the floor, and he's just super exhausted. And he's like, I'm like, son, you've been shooting at everything and anything but hitting nothing. And that's what I feel like a lot of the world does, man. We are moving at such a rapid rate that we're doing all these things, and busyness does not determine direction. If you see yourself as a busy person, that's great. As long as you know where you're going, just like hitting the gas pedal, if you're going fast in the wrong direction, it's irrelevant. So you have to have the destination in mind, and you got to know where you're going. So the importance of knowing where you're going. And it starts out just like the other three questions. Let's pull out the journal. If you're driving, make mental note. Or if you're on a walk, these are questions that you can ask out loud. If you're on the treadmill, you can ask these questions. But I still think that you'll need to go back and just write down these questions into your smartphone or wherever if you are journaling. But the significance of knowing where you're going is if you know where you're going, it makes it easier to set goals. And so the question is, where are you going? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 1 year, 3 years? So if you ask me, where do I see myself going at the end of all of this? The other hard part about asking this question is you have to plan with the end in sight. And what I mean by that, this is guaranteed. I can't guarantee anything else on this podcast, but I can guarantee this statement of you listening right now. And it's the fact that all of us are going to eventually die. You're like, man, turn off the podcast. Like, if you did not know that, then I just taught you something. But all of us have 100% satisfactory rate of that I guarantee that you will die. A lot of people don't like to think about it. I don't particularly like to think about it. But at the end of the day, as we start to learn and to process where we are going in this life, life has a beginning and life has an end. And as we process that, I ask that we just start with the end in sight. So where am I going? So if I had 1 day left to live, I'm not going to say, oh, who would you spend it with? That's not what I'm trying to get into. But where I'm going is I have a photo in my office, and I also have it in my house that I look at constantly, is I'm going to 2 white rocking chairs. And so at the end of all of this, I want these rocking chairs to be hopefully facing a beach or facing a lake, which you have to have success to be able to pay for all that stuff. But I want my wife with me. And I want to be sitting right beside her, and I want it large enough for grandkids. And so with that, you're like, oh, Eric, that sounds fuddy-duddy. I'm just getting out of college. What does that make? I've had this statement probably for the last 10 years to when I was in the throe of my career to where I'm like, nope, I still have to focus on white rocking chairs. Why? Because when you are chasing success, as hard as that I've chased success over the years, that's all that I have the tendency to focus on. And remember, we define what success is. But for me, I wanted money. I wanted influence. I wanted the name recognition. I wanted the largest speaking contracts out there. And so all of that stuff, I had to constantly reel myself back into these 2 white photos. Because at the end of the day, where I'm going, the rocking chairs, I don't want to be sitting by myself. So I have to invest into my marriage. And I want grandkids. So what that means is that hopefully my kids will want to be around me enough to where they'll bring their kids back. I have to start with the end in sight for us to know where we're going. The other couple ways that you can figure out, so goals are where we're going is about setting goals, clear goals. You may have heard this before, but one thing that I use in my life, my wife use, my staff use, the board of directors use, any businesses that I've been involved in use this method of setting goals, and it's SMART. SMART. Do I believe all goals need to be SMART? Yes, but SMART stands for something. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Now, depending on what you Google, I think a couple of those can be thrown around different ways, but specific goals. Me saying that I want to lose weight is not a goal. Me saying that I want to have the largest bank account in the world is not a goal. How would you make that specific? Well, one way that you would make it specific is like, I want to lose 30 pounds by December. That's specific. Instead of saying I want to have the largest bank account out there, you say I want to have $1 million by the time that I'm 35 years old. And so that is a specific goal. Measurable, the same thing. You can measure if you're at $1 million. The other thing is you can break it down per year, and you're able to measure it in increments of years, minutes, and moments. So you know that it's measurable. Same thing with the losing of the weight. You can say, I want to lose 2 pounds every other week for the next 10 months that will equal out XYZ pounds. So it's measurable, attainable. And I was asking Frames this earlier. I'm like, what the heck does attainable mean? He's like, can you actually grasp it? Is it attainable to what you're going to do? So I'm 41 years old right now, and I want to retire by the time that I'm 55 years old. And I want to retire with $4 billion. Well, that's not attainable for now. Now, anything is possible, but the reason that I'm saying it's not attainable is because it hasn't met my goal sheet yet. I haven't made it a priority. And $4 billion, dollars, unless I start a pretty significant company and sell, $4 billion dollars is going to be pretty challenging for me to do. And I think that I will leave that up to Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and I just hope and pray that they just give donations to the foundation that I care the most about, right? So it has to make sure that it's attainable and that it is actually doable. And then the other part to what smart is realistic. It kind of goes back with the same, is it attainable? Is it realistic? It's the same thing. If you want to lose 100 pounds throughout the year, well, you're not going to lose 100 pounds within a week. So it has to be a realistic goal. And then the other thing is timely. Anytime that you set a goal, there has to be a time frame around it. And this can aggravate some of the leaders that I get the opportunity to lead with. But the timely aspect, I think it needs to be specific and timely. Even if you had to ST 2 goals, it needs to be specific. And the timely aspect of it is, if you're like, well, I'm gonna build 16,000 play sets. Okay, so that was measurable, but when? And if you aren't able to put a time aspect to it, then the reality of you quitting along the way is going to be extremely high. Why? Because goals are hard and goals are pushing for the future. Goals are doing things now that will dictate and create a better future for you tomorrow. So then sometimes those goals get pushed back on the back burner because all the chaos and all the fiery stuff that comes at us day to day. So you got to make sure that you smart out your goals. Another thing to figure out where you're going is I create vision boards. Now, I used to print out a board, and this tells you how old I am. I would cut some magazine articles out, or I'd print some photos from Google Images, and then I would put them on a board in front of me. Now, I don't do that. I utilize technology. So the vision boards that I have on Pinterest. And if you have another platform that you like to use, I think Pinterest is the easiest. You can just write down a certain type of things that you're looking for, and then you can go down the rabbit hole. But one way to make sure that you know where you're going is to create a vision board. And you can't just create that vision board. So for me, it's easy to hide away, out of sight, out of mind. But this vision board is in front of me, and I have it on my calendar once a week on Fridays that I go over my vision board. And then I add stuff to it, and I take stuff away. Like, I want a Range Rover. I want a blacked out gunmetal black rim Range Rover, and that is still on my vision board. Have I gotten there yet? No, but I am, because it's on my vision board, because I've set a goal. I've set a timely manner behind it. I do believe that I'm going to have a blacked out Range Rover, and I'm going to post a photo when I do get one, and Frames will ride with me too. He's nodding his head, he's laughing, but that's okay. Like, the vision board is okay. It's okay to be selfish in some of those things. Why? Because it's yours. And if you're fighting for success, to pour out, like doing the things that make you successful, if you're listening to these podcasts, you're watching YouTube, you're watching all these training videos, then make yourself a goal. And then once I get the Range Rover, I probably will drive it for a little bit. And knowing me, I'm like, okay, I'm bored. I want something else. But that's okay, because I'm fighting for success. Set the vision board where you can review it, and just set it on your calendar as a reminder, something to look for. I've heard of a lot of people, they put it in their closet when they get ready. So just make sure that A, you create one, B, that you review it, and continue to add stuff to it and take some stuff away. Why? Because we're humans. We're not humans doing, we're humans being, and we're in a world that is constantly changing. So your vision board can change. And another thing, start small. So where are you going? If you have zero idea where you're going, write out and time block your day. And that's what I would just encourage you. At 8 a.m., I'm going to wake up. At 8:30, I'm going to have some coffee, and I'm going to go for a run. At 9 o'clock, I'm going to read. Or I have to be in the office by 9, I'm going to work on these tasks. So another quick, easy way to do it, and starting small, is to do time blocking. Where do you do time blocking? You can do it on your notes section on your phone. You can do it on your journal. But time blocking has helped me be very, very successful in the short increments, because where you're going is about the now, but it has to do with the legacy of what you're leaving behind. And after you start small, I would just, to close out this thought, is create some SMART goals, create a vision board, and just make sure that you start small. And the key word to that is to start, because whatever you put off for today will hinder where you're going tomorrow. And a lot of us that you're listening, and I find myself in the same boat, but if you're listening, you're like, Eric, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do this. I'm taking the kids to soccer practice, or I am cramming for an exam, or you don't understand the load that I have on me. And you're right, I don't. But I'm telling you, some of the stuff that I've had a lot of load on me before, and a lot of the stuff that you are talking about and that you're thinking right now has the tendency to be the obstacle that stands in your way to the better future that you want for tomorrow. And I read a phenomenal book by Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. And the whole premise of that is like whatever is standing in your way, most of us, when we see an obstacle, we have the tendency to retreat. And that is the farthest thing that we need to do. Either you figure out how to go over it, you go under it, you put dynamite on it, and you make that obstacle blow away, and you blow up that obstacle. But every thought, negative thought that you're having right now of why you cannot do that, what I would encourage you to do is just write those thoughts out, make those the obstacles, and figure out the way around those obstacles so that you can get to the future that you have standing in front of you. And you got to be able to navigate the obstacles. And that book, I cannot recommend that book enough to you. So it's Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. Philosophical writer. He's a Stoic, and I have very much so related to his podcast. So give him a check out. And Ryan, if you're listening, I would love to have you on my podcast as well. So we've shared a couple strategies. And then the next part of where you're going is just a simple question, and it has to do with your legacy. And again, we started this out, where you're going, all of us are going to die. What do you want people to say about you at the end of your life? And that is what the legacy part stands for. What is the world going to be like after Eric D. Newman passes away? What are my kids going to be saying about me? What are the leaders that have led with me? What are they going to be saying about me? And what am I going to do to better this world? So what is it that you want your legacy to be? And I started out earlier, like all of us are going to end up passing away. So what do you want your impact to be on this world after you're gone? What do you want your family to say about you? What do you want your kids to say about you? What do you want your team members to say about you? Like that part of this is the legacy. And the legacy piece is like, for me, I want to make this world a better place. And I think for us, as we navigate this, we need to think about these three questions. And this last question of like, what do you want your legacy to be has to do with where you're going. But it also, for us to get there, to be able to get into the mental thought of even thinking about a legacy, we got to know who we are. We got to have our identity. We got to know what we believe, that I believe that I was designed for a moment such as this to change the world for the pediatric cancer community. And then where I'm going is I'm going to 2 white rocking chairs at the very end of this. And I want to be surrounded by the people that love me most. I think on one of the episodes we talked about Warren Buffett. True success is being surrounded by people that love you the most at the very end. And if that guy with billions of dollars can say that, then we need to listen to him. And I cannot stress these 3 questions enough. Like, to be totally honest, I would not be sitting here today if I had not been able to lean on these 3 questions. So I shared in one of the first episodes about losing everything. I sat on the curb and I could not stand up. Well, this happened again. It's funny how history has a tendency to repeat itself, where in 2020 that I ended up losing $250,000 in one day with 1 or 2 phone calls. I pulled over on the way home. I couldn't face my family. I felt like a failure. I felt like all the emotions of everything from 2008 was coming back to haunt me. And this was in 2020, March 13th. So I go home. I couldn't sleep. And I ended up waking up, tossing and turning. And man, I got down on my knees in front of my bed and just started praying and crying. And thank God I have a phenomenal wife, because my wife got up. She put her hand on my back and just started rubbing my back. I was starting to hyperventilate. I had no idea how we were going to continue to love and serve the pediatric cancer community. I thought the world was ending. But at the end of this, after I was able to just decompress and get everything out, I asked myself these 3 questions internally, and I was able to stand. Well, who am I? I'm Eric Newman. I'm a believer in Jesus. I believe that I was put here in this world to love and serve the pediatric cancer community. Where am I going? I am going to love and serve 16,000 families, and nothing will stop me. And it was those statements, as I kept saying those statements, I got on one hand, I got on one knee, and I began to stand firmly in these 3 questions. And thank God I was able to, because from that, knowing who I am, knowing where I'm going, and knowing what I believe was able to translate with my staff and my team, because we've said it, you got to lead the me before you lead the we. I went in the very next day and I told the team, I'm like, listen, I have no idea how we're going to do this, but I know that we're going to love and serve 16,000 families. And we ended up scaling the organization to where, in the midst of all the chaos in 2020, Rock Solid Foundation was able to quadruple its growth in the amount of programs that we were able to love and serve. And I'm not saying that for a pat on my back. I am telling you the seriousness around these 3 questions, because when things are good, you don't need to really reflect on these things. But I encourage you that you do. It's when things are super hard and challenging and you feel like you're in a rut that this is a phenomenal place to start. And where you need to start, something that you can lean on, is 3 simple, practical questions. Who am I? Where am I going? And what do I believe? So guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me these last couple of episodes. I hope that you were able to take just a little piece of information to help to create a better future for you, your family, the people you care most about. And I'm going to leave you the same exact way I leave you every single podcast, is fight for success so you can pour out significance. I'm your host, Eric, and I'll see you soon.